Now, the first of the industry standard technologies that Facebook is using is REST. This is the communications technology and protocol that lets applications communicate back and forth to one another over the web. REST is the key to the way in which Facebook communicates with your application. And remember that your application is running on a separate server from Facebook. When Facebook wants to display your page, it calls your application on your server using REST and comes back with the results from your server and puts those results into the frame of the Facebook application, which then goes to the user. And it need not be that simple, because inside your code, you often are making your own calls back to Facebook to retrieve data that you are going to be displaying on the page. Now, inside your application on your own hard disk is a PHP folder. And the files that are important in that are the PHP, Facebook.php file, and the restlib file. Restlib is the file that implements the REST interface. And these are the two that are behind the scenes, and you do call methods of both of them, but not in great detail. And in fact, you can safely survive in most cases by just knowing what the name of a method is that you need to call and using the parameters that are required without knowing what it's going to do. But I will take you briefly behind the scenes. If I look at Facebook.php, this is a file that creates a Facebook object, and you can see here we have a class called Facebook. And it is called when you construct a new Facebook client, and we sometimes call this Facebook object the Facebook client. This is the code that is executed usually as one of the first lines of code in every single file that you are writing for your Facebook application. So what you will have is a variable, and it may be called FB, sometimes it's called user, it can be called anything you want, there are various conventions, but you are creating a new Facebook object, and you pass in two keys. These are the two keys that Facebook gives you for each application that you're going to develop. And here's the constructor down here, and you can see that what it is doing is it is storing these two keys in the object itself, and it is now generating a new Facebook REST client. This is the second object that is in this file, and it's right over here. And this is the restlib file that is called from the Facebook constructor, so that once you have a Facebook object in your Facebook application, you can then get to its restlib.php file. And you can then call the methods inside this file. And this is the glue to Facebook itself. You can see this is itself an object here. And I'll just come through and choose at random a call to the Facebook API. And what you can see is here's a function it calls events create, and it creates an event, a Facebook event, using event info. And like almost every other function in this file, what it does is it calls a function called call method, and it is calling exactly the Facebook API method. And it's passing in the parameter or parameters that are passed into events create. So you are calling events create with a parameter of event info, and inside restlib it's turning around and calling the actual Facebook method and passing in what you have just passed in. Now inside call method, what it does is a little bit of manipulation. It calls the actual method inside the Facebook API and gets back in almost every case the result. And that result is in XML, another industry standard technology that you rely on and you don't need to know a great deal about, because inside restlib, as part of call method, you package the parameters that were sent into restlib from your application, call the method in the API, get the result back in XML, and what call method is nice enough to do for you is to convert the XML in most cases into an array. So you have an array of named elements that you can handle. From your application, what you are dealing with is you are calling something inside restlib, you are passing in parameters in a comfortable PHP style, usually an array, and you are getting back results in a familiar PHP style, also usually an array. The entire conversion to the actual guts of the API call and the conversion from the XML result to a usable result, all of that is handled inside restlib. So you really don't need to know what's happening here except the theory behind it, because this is how you're getting into the Facebook API. And this is where the REST protocol and XML are all encapsulated, working for you, but you don't have to worry about them.